Hi all, I have another classic game of Paul Morphy to show you. This was playing black. Paul Morphy was playing black against John William Shulton. John William Shulton isn't just some anonymous bunny, he actually was pretty active. There's a wiki article on him. John William Shulton, 1821 to 75. He was a 19th century master from Germany and the United States. In the 1840s and 1850s, he travelled widely in Europe and the United States to play some of the best players in the world. Adolf Anderssen, Despechels, Harwitz, Kiesertsky, Paul Morphy, Gustav Neumann, and many others. Unfortunately, he did lose most of them. The wiki article states, although he lost matches against Kiesertsky and Morphy, he did beat both of them once. And one of his wins against Morphy was in the same city as this game, and in the same year. Was this the game? Well, there's a bit of intrigue there. I'm not saying either way. Was this the game or not? If it isn't, maybe we should show the other one if it isn't. But let's have a look at this game. So he's an established active player. E4. Paul Morphy plays E5. F4. And now this aggressive counter gambit, D5. E takes. Now E4. So very interesting, the Falkbeer counter gambit. E4, we have knight C3, knight F6. Is this pawn really vulnerable? D3, black really doesn't want to sort of take here and accelerate white's development. He pins the knight. Now after bishop D2, a very, very interesting move, which is standard nowadays. I wonder if you can guess it. It is a very, very interesting, powerful move. You could argue positionally. If I give you 5 seconds, what does black play here? You might, 5 seconds to pause the video. E3. It's in Livebook. It's the main move in Livebook in this position. E3. It's pretty disruptive. It's basically recreating that pin, which means both knight takes and queen takes is on here. Queen takes might have implications for hitting G2. Black just castles now, leaving the option of either knight G4, knight D5, or rook E8 immediately. So not immediately keen to take on D5. If knight takes D5, bishop D2, yeah, technically this is slightly advantageous for white actually. And the way it's played by Paul Morphy here, leaving that pawn sack, it means also, of course, there's possibilities like C6 as well. And in fact, after bishop D2, we don't get C6 here, although that might be an interesting move to play. In fact, Paul Morphy voluntarily gives up his dark square bishop. So there's possibilities of using the knight here now. We have B takes C3. Check. Bishop E2, and now bishop G4, and this is very, very annoying now for white. White can't even play knight F3 in this position without suffering a little bit. He plays actually C4 to cling on to the pawn. Possibly white is okay here with H3, it seems, from a technical perspective. So for example, queen takes D5 looks like a menacing resource, punishing H3. So, for example, if HG, then there's queen takes G2, and black's clearly better. But there is actually king F2 in this position. And after bishop takes, knight takes, white should be fine, even with a small advantage here. So that was a way of playing it in this position. After bishop G4 to play the move H3, but not knight F3. That incurs damage. Bishop takes. It's horrible in this position with queen H4. Possibilities, well, it's a bit of a wreck there. Okay, but we see white playing C4. This has a downside. This D4 square is slightly compromised. When the pawn was on C3, it was controlling D4, and as if it looks somewhat shaky now because it's easy to undermine this structure and get to the d4 square with c6. Yeah, it's very, very energetic play by Morphy. Ruthless gambit play with black. After d takes, knight takes. It's white that's suffering here at black's initiative. Usually a king's gambit player will want, good piece play, aggressive initiative. White, although he's 2 pawns up, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's a miserable position here, really miserable, with this bishop pinned 2 ways, one absolute pin, one relative pin. And he tries to unpin, but now Paul Morphy is absolutely and completely ruthless tactically from this superior position where, okay, he's 2 pawns down, but he's got this enormous initiative now. Black to play, absolutely ruthless tactical play now. What's the first move? I'll give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay, rook takes e2. So forcing basically knight takes e2. If anything else, then there's, if h3 was rook f2 or rook f2 check to win the queen. So yeah, knight takes e2 is forced. Knight d4. Yeah, a lot of pressure on the pin. We have queen b1. Not a very healthy state of affairs. Bishop takes e2 check. King f2. Knight g4 check. King g1. Now a very nice forcing move in this position. Can you guess? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, knight f3 check. Making way for the queen to come to that sensitive d4 square. Takes queen d4 check. Queen f2 check. The king's being dragged up the board. Queen takes f3 check. Now knight h6, threatening queen g4 checkmate. That's parried. But knight f5 check and queen h5 is checkmate. This is an astounding example of how the king's gambit, which is meant to offer white a big initiative and piece play, was kind of used by black here very energetically to counter-sacrifice pawns, and black was the one chasing the king around the board ruthlessly here. So a fantastic example of piece play, piece pressure, and a nice forcing move sequence at the end to bring the king to a checkmate there. Hope you enjoyed it. Comments, questions, likes, shares. Appreciated. Thanks very much.